Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rosales Media for Change podcast. I'm your host, Miguel Rosales, and today I'm joined by Leo Willetts, a Navy veteran who served 20 years after graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy. He's traveled the world, returning home to San Diego, and built a career in accounting and property investing. Through it all, he stayed grounded in his Catholic faith. Let's dive into his journey and the lessons he's picked up along the way. I thought you had a really interesting career, especially how you were a pilot, which I always thought was really fascinating. So
Okay.
if you could tell me kind of how you got into it, starting from your high school career and like beyond that.
From high school, when I graduated from high school in January of '56, um, I made before graduating. I made application for the Naval Academy to continue my college education, and I was not accepted the first year that I applied. The second year I applied, I was accepted, and I entered with in 1957 in the Naval Academy, and was lucky enough to go there and get 4 years of college education, and ended up graduating from the Naval Academy in 1961 with a Bachelor of Science degree. Once at the Naval Academy, when you graduate, prior to graduating, you decide what part of the service you want to go to. And I decided that I wanted to be a naval aviator and to fly. I wanted to fly jets, is what I wanted to fly. And so, following graduation, I went down to Pensacola, Florida, was checked out in primary aircraft and then in the jet syllabus. And in January of '63, I received my wings. And my first duty station was in San Diego at Utility Squadron 7 to fly F-8 Crusaders, which is a single-seat jet fighter aircraft. And at that time, the models of the F-8 were being used over in Vietnam. I spent my career there in the VU7. It changed over to VU. It went from VU, which is the utility squadron, over to a composite squadron called VC and VC7. And following my 3 years at that squadron, I then was transferred over to the Monterey Naval Postgraduate School for advanced degree. While at the at Monterey Postgraduate School, I received what's called an aeronautical degree, which is better than a master's, but not quite a doctorate. And it was in aeronautic electronics. Following that, while there, I was flying, and then I had a medical problem, and I ended up stopped flying, turned in my wings, and became what was called a ground pounder in the Navy, still in the aviation field. I went from there to Vietnam for a year, came back from there, which was in '69. No, I graduated from the Monterey after being there for 3 years in '69. Went to Vietnam to a squadron called HAL-3, HAL-3, which is Helicopter Attack Light 3-3. And I was the aviation materiel officer while I was there. From there, when I ended my tour there, which was in September of '70, I was transferred to Pensacola, Florida, to the Aviation Training Command. Again, this time I was on the staff of Chief of Naval Air Training Basic. Was there for a year and a half, and they moved the command over to Corpus Christi, Texas. And I continued my position there with the staff, but it now became Chief of Naval Air Training. And I was there until 1974, at which time I got transferred to the USS Constellation, which is Carrier 74. And I was there, made one deployment, went through a ship overhaul in Bremerton, Washington, and from there came, it was in 77, was transferred to Naval Air Systems Command in Washington, D.C. So you can see I got the opportunity to travel a lot in the States, and while I was on the cruise, we traveled around the world, almost around the world. Went across the equator, and then in Naval Air Systems Command, Washington, D.C., I spent 4 years there and retired from the Navy in the end of June in 1981, at which time I moved back to San Diego and was working as a contractor for different companies here in San Diego that supported aircraft for the Navy. And then in, I'm trying to think the years, it was then going to be in 85, 87, about 87, I think it was. I stopped working for the contractor and went into business myself as a QuickBooks accountant, and got several different private companies that I supported. And in 94, I ultimately finished my my accounting business for pay, and just went to accounting for myself and properties that I have. So I taught myself on QuickBooks, Quicken, and I'm still using both of those. That's basically the bottom line, is that I really enjoyed my 20 years of service. It was a very fun time. Actually, it was 24 if you consider the 4 years that I had at the Naval Academy. And I had the opportunity to see different parts of the United States. And also when we deployed, went to different countries. And I'm trying to think, India was one of them. Pakistan is where we went. And the Philippines. And as I said, the last 4 years was in the Washington, D.C. area, where I saw an awful lot of the government and the buildings of the government, and explored those things, and attended a lot of what do I call it, sightseeing there in Washington, D.C. for 4 years. And also saw fireworks there, and they were, as the fireworks exploded, they were over the top of the Washington Monument, and my wife and I and family, we laid on the ground right next to the Severn River and watching the fireworks go off. Beautiful. 45 minutes of fireworks.
That sounds beautiful. And I really like how you had a very, very long career in all the things you did, like accounting, and then now accounting for yourself for your properties. And I think a lot of kids want to know, because I think from videos online and all the cool videos that come out about flying planes and just how cool it is, for you, what was your experience like? Like, was it the reason that you went into flying and wanting to fly planes for kind of the fun of it, or did someone kind of convince you to do that or go into that field specifically?
No, as a matter of fact, when my first 3 years at the Naval Academy, I thought that I was going to be what's called a ship driver and drive just a destroyer or some kind of a ship. And my last year there, I decided, flying sounds kind of fun. And so I said, I think I'm going to take a I'm not the least bit scared of ejecting or dying or anything else by flying. And so I wanted to fly. There were several of my friends that were also going aviation, and followed them to the training command. And one, so for me, it was the idea of enjoying the activity of flying, and I had the grades that I could pick what I wanted to do. So it was important that I had the grades so I could do the pick and go aviation. If I didn't have those grades, I would have been a ship driver.
So now that you mentioned that, so for the Naval Academy, is that how it works? That you have to have certain grades, or is it like the highest in the class get to pick the field that they want to go into, and everyone else goes into whatever needs to be filled in?
They have a certain number of people that can go into the different parts of the Navy, and actually can be go into Marine Corps. And at that time, we could also be go into the Army, or you could go into Supply Corps. They made a determination, used your class standing rank of where you stood in the class, and out of the 1,000 we had actually we had 800 graduates, and I was somewhere around 300. So I was up high enough that I could make the pick and go aviation, and didn't get down all the way down to the bottom. But even the people, as they're picking it, they have a wide selection of ships that they can choose from too. But some people can go Supply Corps if you don't feel like you want to do something else. And after, some people have classmates of mine that after they served their first 4 years in whatever category they were working, they had opportunities to go to postgraduate school. And some of my classmates actually went to lawyer school.
Mm.
So there's a wide branch. And so once you get into the service and you get your first duty station and you do well at that duty station, then you have a chance to go into lots of other things also.
Got it. So for the Naval Academy, is it similar? Because I have a teammate from rugby who I believe got into the Naval Academy. He's going to be attending there next year, because he's a senior this year. But I haven't asked him too much about it. But do you just focus on school for those 4 years? I think like you said you did, and then you start to do your, I guess, like your training and all of that to go into your specific field? Or do you start to get introduced to that during your time at school at the Naval Academy?
You get introduced to it, but generally speaking, what you do is you've got your 4 years of academic training, and then in the summer months, you take some kind of a cruise of some sort for training. The first summer we had, which would be between my freshman and sophomore year, is I was on a destroyer ship, and we deployed to England, into Germany, and the World's Fair at that time. My second summer there, it was what we referred to as the Marine/Aviation summer. And we went through for about 3 weeks of Marine training, at which time I decided I did not want to be a Marine, because what we ended up doing was, which some people really enjoyed doing, which was put on a life jacket, climb up the top of onto let's say, a landing craft, into a landing craft, and then they went around. This was in Little Creek, Virginia, and you made a amphibious landing. And once you made that landing, you rolled around in the sand, and you went back a second time, and you did the landing over again. So that was part of the Marine training. Aviation training, it was we had some flights in the primary aircraft, and then we also had a jet ride. We went to two different places. We got moved around generally by a carrier, and we lived aboard the carrier for the short period of time and moved around. And that was the time when I first saw New Orleans. And then my senior year, between the junior year and my senior year, I was stationed on a carrier, and it went in and out of Norfolk, Virginia for the summer. So that gave you a better understanding of the various service arrangements that you could make, places where you could go, and so that when you came time in January of your senior year, you made your selection of what you wanted to do.
Got it. That sounds really cool for like all the different things that you have to do for the specific field that you go into. And so after you finished your, like you said, 20 or 24 years of service, why did you specifically go into accounting and QuickBooks once you were back in San Diego? Is there something that was intriguing of it, or just a good business that you thought you wanted to go into?
It was just a business that I thought that I could easily transition into. I didn't have to go searching at a company trying to get a job. And the question was, did it sound like did I think that I could make money from it and live with it? And the answer was yes. I ended up having, I think, 3 different customers all on a part-time basis, and I had them. After a while, I decided I really wanted to get out of accounting for a customer other than myself, because every time I wanted to go on vacation, I had to work around the 15th of the month and the 30th of the month, which was paydays. And so I didn't want to have to cancel or let it control my vacation based on what my work was. And so I decided that I would stop working for a company where they had multiple employees, and that's where QuickBooks came involved, because there's multiple employees. And then I just felt comfortable, and I said, I think I can do this. And it worked out that I made sufficient money that with my retirement pay and in working, I managed to get through my life. And we now have 7 pieces of property that we own, and now I just watch the money come in from those.
Got it. And now that you say that, Catherine, I know was very, Catherine, your wife, just for some context, is very involved in real estate, and I've been learning a lot more about it after the books that you had given us. And how did you get into a lot of real estate? Because I think you had mentioned at some point there's a restaurant in Golden Hill. I think it's Luigi's, the pizza place. I think you had mentioned, I don't know if you owned that one. Is that right? The
Yes,
property?
we own
Because
that property that Luigi's is on, and we have owned that since about 84 or 85. And Catherine, my wife, we had already started investing while we were in the Navy, and we had an apartment building on A Street in San Diego. We had the opportunity to buy several other pieces of property, and then excuse me, let's see, as we became involved with real estate, and Catherine being a realtor, we actually got somebody else to help us find the various properties, and we ended up, as I said, purchasing several pieces of property, and we have, in many cases, sold those and reinvested the money in another piece of property, usually a bigger one, from a single family home to maybe an apartment building. And we keep upgrading it which means that where you got money from the selling of a house, you take that money and you put it into an apartment building and maybe have a duplex, and then you sell the duplex and you buy a four apartment building, 4 unit apartment building, and we have got 7 units, 5 units. When we went into and bought Luigi, it was a commercial. The opportunity just presented itself that the people were interested in selling and we were interested in buying. And Catherine had to do a lot of negotiating, and she got the price that she wanted for it. And most recently, we bought a piece of property which has got seven units right down the street from us on 25th and 8th.
That's really cool because I remember you mentioned that quite a while ago because I basically grew up in Golden Hill when I was very young, and I remember always going to Luigi's. So I thought it was very cool knowing that you own the property there.
Mhm.
And so for you, I know Catherine was very involved with real estate, but did you kind of learn from her about different investments? Because I really think that's cool. Like you mentioned, you were already investing in real estate or other investments while you were still in the Navy. So was that something that you kind of learned from either Catherine or any books or classes that you might have taken during that time?
We took a lot of classes, and right now I can't think of the name of the instructor, but he wrote several books about nothing down and using other people's money. One of the times when we went back to Michigan to visit my daughter, we said, well, let's see if I'd buying a piece of property and having my daughter manage it. And we ended up buying that piece of property using credit card because of training that we had received. Had it not been for the training, I would not have been interested in extending myself that way. But once I had the training and I felt good about it, then it became very easy to understand the different terminology that comes about and where you're making money and where you're going to lose money.
Well, I think that's really cool just throughout your career, doing a bunch of different things and how you didn't just settle on one thing. And yeah, I really think it's amazing because I mean, I've always looked up to you, especially like spiritually with being Catholic. And there's not a single Sunday that I've gone and I've not seen you there. So could you tell me a little bit more about kind of your life surrounding, being Catholic and if you've held that with you your whole life, or was that kind of developed later in life?
No, I was baptized as a child and went to church with my parents. Sometimes I thought that my parents were going to a later mass than I wanted, and I used to ride my bike to church. But I was Catholic all along. When we went to Monterey, and I was there to postgraduate school, I ended up teaching the altar boys for serving because I had become very devout in wanting to attend Mass, and you go to daily Mass, especially during Lent. I was always going to daily Mass. I first started going to daily Mass when I was at the Naval Academy because I looked up to a friend of mine and he was going, so I used to go there too. And that started my freshman year, and then I continued that to 4 years I was there. And then as I moved around to different parts of the United States, I continued to find places to go to Mass. When I was in Meridian, Mississippi, going through jet training, I was fortunate enough to have a car with me, and I would go to Mass, and I would stop and pick up a couple girls and take them to Mass on Sunday. And then I would go to their house after Mass, and then have breakfast. So it was rather nice, what, because never thought of being the type where you would uh, invite somebody to go to mass, and then but really the thinking about going to mass and becoming interested in going is the reason I was able to marry my wife is because I could only fit into her schedule by taking her to mass. And so I would take her to mass uh, sometimes during the week, sometimes on the weekend. And because I was a Catholic and I was practicing my faith, then she felt very comfortable about saying yes when I finally got around to asking her in my own little way of asking her. Yeah.
I think that's really cool and a great story on how you guys kind of got closer and very likely met as well. Thank you so much for telling me a lot more about your career, and I really like that because um, I chose you also as my godfather when I did my confirmation because you're someone I always looked up to. Because I mean you're a great person, always giving back, a great person in our community. So I always wanted to learn more about you. And so for like the people listening, the other students, is there some advice that you would give them if they could take away one piece of advice from your life that you learned?
Well, I would say the one piece of advice would probably be always be an active person with God. And like one of my prayers every morning is that it brings my day, I bring humor into my marriage. That's what I pray for. Uh, but I have been very active in the church in the way of different committees, and I still am very active in doing part of their finance committee. So I would say that always feeling very comfortable about going to church and talking about religion, it has always been easy going for me. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Leah, for helping me out with the interview today. Very grateful for the time we spent together today. And I'll be posting the audio and the video on Spotify. And I'll
Oh,
make sure to send that over to you too, because I'm going to make some shorter videos as well, short snippets for people to watch.
uh-huh.
So hopefully those will be done by the end of this weekend. So I'll make sure to send those over to you as well.
Great. Thank you. And thank you very much for your comments about looking up to me.